I wanted to just dig into the article a little bit more detail here. And so can you just kind of give us the overview of what happened in Australia last week and maybe what has happened since, from what you've heard?
Sure. Well, Australia got very close to implementing this new regulation where they were going to have to, essentially pay for news.
Right.
And instead of going along with that, Facebook said, well, we're just going to pull the plug on all the news organizations then, along with a lot of other information sources.
Right.
And that lasted about 5 days until they said they would relent and come back to the negotiating table.
Right.
Google has been much more willing to work and acknowledge the value.
Right.
So they're kind of in a different stage there, but I haven't heard, in the last few days now, there hasn't been much new news about what's really going to happen.
Right. What's next? Yeah. How are they going to actually make this happen? Right.
Clearly, if Australia is successful with this, and I guess that's what I wanted, to give my readers a heads up about, is that, whatever does happen, it's very likely that we're going to try to get similar concessions. And, why would anyone in North Dakota care? Well, because it impacts all of us.
I know that's the most exciting thing to me. So like, you wanted to write this for your readers to just try to increase the awareness of this major problem that affects everyone, but we're all kind of just blind to it. It's just happening all around us. Like Facebook is so ubiquitous, we don't even think of it. I don't know, as something that needs to change. But I feel like it is gaining more momentum and more attention in like the media. Like you hear about these testimonials that they have to give. They're going before Congress and talking antitrust stuff. But why did you write it for your audience in Crosby? Can you tell us a little bit? Because I think more publishers should do it, is what I'm saying. But why did you?
Well, there has been growing awareness. I think COVID really brought it home. There really was a spotlight around this time last year, maybe 10, 11 months ago, about how newspapers were being harmed financially because of the lack of advertising. And so it's really interesting to me, too, that this is coming up at a time when, we were already embattled. And then, with COVID, that just increased things and created awareness about the financial formula of what makes a community newspaper work and what doesn't.
Right.
And so, educating my readers about these macro forces that are also having an impact on us. And in fact, this sort of gave me an opportunity to update, readers on where we are at, because, less than a year ago, I was really concerned about the continuation of our newspapers because, of the immediate impacts of COVID.
Right.
And so we did get a lot of donations and grants and things like that. We even got $5,000 from Google, which I was really tickled about. It's like, oh wow, they're finally paying me.
Right. I know, it's great. They throw around those grants, but I mean, really, you need something more sustainable.
Not really sustainable. And I guess that was kind of the point I was telling the readers in this column that I'm really thankful for all of that help.
Right.
But we need to be able to support ourselves. And one of the reasons, or one of the things that's impacting our ability to adequately support ourselves and be sustainable, is the fact that we're caught in this nexus between, wanting to share our information and wanting to get paid what it's worth. And I liken that somewhat to, the music artists went through this with the whole Napster thing, 15 years ago.
Right.
And the music industry, I think, has had a really my impression is they had a pretty slow recovery from that.
Right.
Napster basically changed the financial formula for the whole music industry. It completely upended everything. Yep. Where you're just buying individual songs. Very few people are buying albums.
That's right.
That was a sea change. Well, it's a similar thing here, although, because of the way this is set up, we don't even get, a penny
Right.
right now from Google or Facebook unless they're just, unless we apply for a grant and, they deem to,
Right. Decide that you're
shower us
worthy.
with pennies.
Right. Yeah. The music parallel is fascinating. I mean, you mentioned, I'm probably going to jump around a little bit here, but you did mention one specific thing that I want to just bring up to our customers, which was kind of interesting. Like the ability, I'm logged in right now, so I can highlight and copy. But when I'm not logged in, I cannot do that. You mentioned that in your article. You said it doesn't always work. I'd actually like to dig a little bit more into that, maybe with you after, why it doesn't work. But did you just ask ops? Is there a way for us to make it so people can't highlight, and then they did it, or how did that all happen?
Yeah. Well, so I actually had people who were subscribers who were going on our going from Facebook to our webpage, and they were reading a story, and then they would be commenting on our Facebook page about the story. And somebody would say, well, I can't read it. Right. And then they'd copy and paste our artiple into our own Facebook page.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm like, no, this can't happen. And so I contacted ops and said, is there any way we can make it so that people can't copy and paste our stories and paste them into Facebook? And they made it that way. Now, I don't know why, but occasionally I will still find somebody that is somehow able to do that.
Yeah. So you'll just see the article pasted and it's like, well, that's obviously how they did it. They didn't type the whole thing in there.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure, if I would have to dig into it more, but maybe they used a screenshot, because see, they could still do that. Right. They could take a screenshot of the article and paste that on there. And, it's really hard as a publisher when you see somebody complaining that, well, I can't read it. And, it's like, well, it's only going to cost you $1.99 is how we're set up. If you want to read just that article and by the way, have access to the rest of our stuff for that week, I mean, that certainly shouldn't be a financial barrier. But I just got into it with some people on our Facebook stream just a couple weeks ago and saying, please don't do that. Yeah. It's not fair to you. You're not even being fair to yourself, because you're paying for a subscription and now you're giving away our product to somebody who isn't supporting us.
Right. Yeah. You're paying it for everyone. And you're breaking the rules. Well, Terry, you have a question for us there. You raise your hand.
Yes, I do.
Virtual raising. Yeah.
A couple of things. Cecile, what we're talking about right now, I think it kind of depends. It focuses or reveals the integrity of people. But you said one word that kind of jumped out at me a few minutes ago, and that is educate. And where we can write columns and commentaries until we're crazy and pulling our hair out, but does it really? I think it comes, in my opinion, I think it comes down to a lack of education. The whole COVID thing, or just prior to, the public was educated on the rising costs and unavailability of actual print paper. So that kind of made the public more aware of the struggles of a print paper. And then COVID moved, we've lost a lot of papers. COVID forced that online presence. And now, like you said, people are stealing. And again, that's integrity. But do you think the public actually realizes that journalists are people with homes and families that need to be paid? And supporting this. And, I think sometimes something like this could be seen as an attack on Facebook and Google, which might not sit well with people who are Facebook fiends. Right? So sometimes it's just a matter of saying, hey, this matters to you because your neighbors work here. They're the ones
Right.
that are knocking door to door. They're out in the slush and snow and gathering news that you want to know about.
Yeah, Cecile, yeah, you've always been great about the education. Ever since the beginning of COVID, I remember a bunch of great articles, and I really wanted to highlight those in our interviews. So, yeah, what do you think about Terry's comments?
Well, it's interesting. A couple of things came to mind as she was talking. I think when the music thing happened,
Yeah.
it was, on the one hand, it was hard for people to, feel bad for, Jennifer Lopez because she didn't get her royalty on her latest song or whatever.
Right.
But on the other hand, people really love those celebrities, those stars that whose music that they like.
Right.
And I think they did eventually figure out that, there was value. Plus, there was that personal relationship and that liking of that personality, and then of course then we got iTunes, and people started really paying for it. But
right.
The difference is, sometimes as a publisher, even in a small town, in a very unpopulated area, I just feel like we have so many things coming at us. At the same time, we're trying to take on these Goliaths of Facebook and Google. We're also being lumped in with the whole fake news,
right.
negative media kind of stuff. And so people don't, even though we're their hometown paper and we're their neighbors, we're also the embodiment of the big media that they're not very happy with.
Right.
And so so how bad do people feel if they're taking what they do find value in and not paying for it? I'm not sure they have. It's human nature to get what you can for free.
Right.
And we just have to try to ask people to be honorable. But I think in general, in our society right now, to get on even farther on my soapbox, I think COVID and the political divide has really illuminated the fact that a lot of people don't really care about their neighbor or the health or the well-being of their fellow citizens. And a lot of that is because of economic issues, of people losing jobs. And when people get desperate, the more desperate they become, the less they care about how their neighbor is doing.
Right. They're acting moral in everything that they do. Yeah. Perfectly lawful.
So that's really depressing.
Yeah, it is. It is a bit.